Salvete viatores, and welcome back to Let's Translate Eutropius' Breviarium Historiae Romanae ab Orbe Condita. Last time, we read about a couple wars between the Volsci and the Romans, except one of those was led by one of the Romans' generals during that first war, Coriolanus. We also encountered an example of conditional clauses for the first time, if I am recalling correctly, using the future active participle. This time we continue. Gaio Fabio et Lucio Virginio consulibus. All of this is just ablative of time when, for in the not in the consulship, because this is not consulatus. It's just the ablative form of consul. So it is in the consulship or during the consulship. Wait, no, I just corrected myself on that. So this is like when Gaius Fabius and Lucius Virginius, when Gaius Fabius and Lucius Virginius were consul. You could technically translate it as during the consulship of Gaius Fabius and Lucius Virginius, but it's sticking close to the Latin would be when they were consul rather than during their consulship. So, when these two guys were consul, trecenti nobiles homines, 300 noblemen. These are nobiles is an adjective modifying homines, qui ex Fabia familia erant. So 300 nobles, or noblemen, qui, who, relative clause, ex Fabia familia erant. So who were from ex Fabia familia, the Fabian family, or you could say like the family Fabia. Contra veentes bellum soli susceperunt. So 300 noblemen who were from the Fabian family. Soli is an adjective modifying them. So it's describing these nobles, and it means like alone. Susceperunt, they undertook bellum, a war, contra veantes, against the veantes. Alone, they undertook a war against the veantes. Just these 300 guys, apparently? Promettentes senatui et populo per se omne certamen implandum. So promettentes is a present participle. So it means like promising. Senatui et populo. Both of these are in the dative, being used as an indirect object. So you could translate that probably as two. So promising to the Senate and the people. Per se omne. Honestly, I don't know exactly how this is working literally. But it's supposed to be translated like by themselves. Certamen implandum. Certamen can be a synonym for bellum, so war. Implandum from implandos will be, or it is a future passive participle. So, and it means to be like, it will be done or completed. So, promising to the Senate and the people, it will be done. The war will be done. Per se omne, by themselves. So they don't need any aid from the Senate and the people, aka just the state. They don't need their own army, they just have themselves. But we'll see how that goes for them. Itaque profecti, and thus, I think this is like they set out. Yeah, I think this is like I think this is the perfect active participle of proficisor, I think. So they set out or depart, or having departed, really. Yeah, and thus having departed, omnes nobiles, all the nobles. In fact, that's the subject, et, and qui, singuli magnorum exercitum, duces esse deberent, and singly is like each, or every. So like it can be like each one, but here it means like every. So every one of those who, so like every one of those who deberent should esse have been duces, leaders or generals, magnorum exercitum, of great armies, in proelio concederunt. In battle, they were killed. It's not actually passive, so not they were killed, but they died. They died in battle. Did I go over the first sentence as a whole? I don't think I did. So let's do that. Let's just do both these sentences as a whole right now. So, in the when Gaius Fabius and Lucius Verginius were consuls, 300 noblemen who were from the Fabian family alone undertook a war against the Veientes, promising to the Senate and the people the war would be done by themselves. And thus, having left all the nobles and every one of those who should have been generals of great armies died in battle. Good job, guys. Unus omnino superfuit, ex tanta familia, qui propter aetatem puerilem duci non potuerat ad pugnam. Omnino is an adverb meaning like altogether or wholly, entirely, that sort of thing. So altogether, unus, one, superfuit, survived. Or more like, altogether one from such a great family, or from such a large family, survived. Qui, who, propter aetatem puerilem, on account of, we've seen propter before. Aetatem is like age. Puerilem, it comes from puerilis, and it's like, it's an adjective, meaning like boyish, youthful. So, on account of his youthful age, or maybe you could just say young age, his boyish age, because, I mean, puer right there is the Latin word for boy, so it's like sort of an adjectival version of boy. So like boyish age. Duci. Duci non potuerat ad pugnam. He had not been allowed, not been able. This is from Possum. This is a pluperfect version of Possum. So he had not been able. Duci, I believe, is the passive, or present passive infinitive of ducere. So to be led ad pugnam, to battle. So this kid only survived when all of the other members of his family were killed in battle because he was too young to even be in battle. What a lucky boy. Post-hike, after this, census in orbe habitus est. So after this, a census, I believe habitus est is like a perfect passive participle version of habeo, habere. So a census was had in the city. Et and inventa sunt curium capita. This would be 117,319. And it was found, this is again perfect passive participle except of invenio and venire, which means to find. So it was found, or more like, actually, yeah, gotta save this for later because we need the subject first. So, heads of citizens, or 117,319 heads of citizens were found. Meaning that there are 117,319 people in the city after, I can only assume 299 men died. Which is not going to be the worst blow to Rome's population that she will endure, but not a great look either. But we finished the chapter here, except I need to go over this sentence as a whole, so let me do that first. Unus omnino superfuit, ex tanta familia. So, altogether, one from such a great family survived, who, on account of his boyish age, had not been able to be led to battle. Post-hike, after this, census in orbe habitus est, a census was had in the city. Et inventa sunt curium capita, and I don't know the Latin word for all of this, so 317,319 heads of citizens were found. In fact, let me actually figure that out. I'm going to figure that out. How to say this number. Okay, so I never really learned how to count this high for Latin, but I'm assuming it is septem or centum septedecum. Centum septedecum milia triginta unvigenti. Yeah? Would that work? Centum septeginta, not septeginta, septedecum. Centum septedecum milia. Wait. Yeah. Milia triginta undecum. So then, so it will be after this. Well, that's that. Let's read it in Latin. Well, no, I'll save that for later. I'll save the reading for the number in Latin for later. But last time I promised you Cincinnatus, and you could see Cincinnatus is in the next chapter. So let's continue on. Sequenti anno. We have seen this phrase before. So in the following year, cum, when, in algedo monte, ab orbe duodecimo ferme miliario Romanus obsideretur exercitus. Romanus is modifying exercitus, obsideretur is our verb. I hope for those of you who don't actually know much Latin that you're getting a bit better at identifying at least verbs, because verbs do look a bit different from nouns and adjectives. So, when the Roman army was sort of like besieged or cut off, I forget ferme. Yeah, it's like ferme is a synonym of fere. It's an adverb meaning like completely. So like completely cut off on the Algadin mountain, or Mount Algadus, I think. Yeah. So the Roman army was completely cut off on Mount Algadus. Monte could be, we've seen it referring to the hills of Rome, but here it is mountain, Mount Algadus. Duodecimo, 12 miliario miles, or at the 12th milestone, ab orbe, from the city. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus, dictator est factus. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus was made dictator. By the way, I think I actually pronounced Quintius like Quinctius before, like a C, like right there. Apparently, Eutropius just spells it Quintius instead of Quinctius. I've seen it spelled Quinctius and think Livy. Yeah, Livy spells it Quinctius. So I don't know why it's Quintius here. But either way, here's Cincinnatus. He's dictator. Qui agrum quatuor iugerum possidens manibus suis collebat. So, Cincinnatus, who was tilling. No, first, participle, present participle, possidens, from possideo, meaning like to possess or to have. So, possessing 4 acres, he was tilling, or like farming, or working his land, agrum. You could also say farm for it, but I'm going to say land. Manibus suis, with his own hands. Suis, his own, manibus, hands. So, sequenti anno, in the following year, cum in algedo monte ab orbe duodecimo ferme miliario Romanus obsiderator exercitus, when the Roman army was completely cut off on Mount Algadus, 12 miles from the city, Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus dictator est factus. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus was made dictator, who, qui agrum quatuor iugerum possidens manibus suis collebat, who, possessing 4 acres of land, you could insert that if you'd like, was working his land by his own hands. And I'd say I would say that is ablative of means, if I were to say what the use of the ablative was for this. I try to say it a lot because when you are in school taking classes, it your teachers will ask you that a lot. Iscum in opere et arans esset inventus, I think? Or no, I think inventus is just a perfect past participle. Sudore de terso togam praetextam accepit, et caesis hostibus liberavit exercitum. So he, when he was found in opere, in his work, and like tilling, sudore de terso togam praetextam accepit. He accepted the toga praetexta. The toga praetexta is like the kind of toga for like major officials of Rome. It was like there were different kinds of toga or togai, and this one is like all white but with a purple border, basically, to show you we're important, because purple is the color of important people. Sudore de terso is an ablative absolute, a very short ablative absolute, having wiped his sweat. So, or after wiping his sweat, you could say. So, after wiping his sweat, he accepted the toga praetexta. And caesis hostibus liberavit exercitum. I think this is just another ablative absolute. With the enemies defeated, or the enemies having been defeated, or like after the enemies were defeated, he had liberated the army. And right here, now that we've finished both chapters, I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about something I've been noticing a bit, especially with these two chapters in particular. So, I feel like Eutropius focuses on... I feel like Eutropius sometimes focuses on events that I do not expect him to focus as much on. For example, with these two chapters, he focuses on... He gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little bit more lines to these 300 Fabians, who I had never really heard of before, and I don't really hear talked about much. And I mean, they don't seem that important. They're just 300 guys who are like, hey, let us go fight the Rientes, and then get their butts handed to them. Whereas he gives just a little over 4 lines to Cincinnatus, one of the most famous and lauded Roman leaders, like, in their entire history. But given that this is from my 21st century perspective, perhaps the Romans of Eutropius' time didn't hold Cincinnatus to as high esteem, though I would need to read other works from the time to know that, which I'm not doing right now. Or maybe Eutropius just feels that the things that he does focus on just fit either his narrative better, or he thinks would go over better with his intended audience, which, remember, his intended audience is Emperor Valens. But I just think this kind of thing is very interesting, to look at and think about, because one, it gives us insight into Eutropius' thinking when writing this, as well as his thinking for adapting an already written work, since he's basically just making a brief version of Livy's history of Rome. It also gives us insight onto what Eutropius wants to really, what he really wants his message to be for Emperor Valens. I'm not really going to go any deeper into all of this because, well, I'm trying to, one, basically be as brief as Eutropius, because there's a lot to read, as well as because I'm trying to focus on the Latin instead of the history behind the work. But I did really want to bring attention to that, because it had been playing in my mind quite a bit. And I feel these two chapters really exemplify. But anyways, enough about that. Let's move on to the Latin and English readings. Gaio Fabio et Lucio Virginio consulibus trecenti nobiles homines, qui ex Fabia familia erant, contra veentes bellum soli susceperunt. Promettentes senatui et populo per se omne certamen implendum. Itaque profecti, omnes nobiles et qui singuli magnorum exercitum duces esse deberent, in proelio considerunt. Unus omnino superfuit, ex tanta familia, qui propter aetatem puerilem, duci non potuerat ad pugnam. Post haec census in orbe habitus est, et inventa sunt civium capita centum septedecim milia triginta undevigenti. Sequenti anno, cum in algedo monte ab urbe duodecimo verve miliario Romanus obsederetur exercitus. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus dictator est factus, qui agrum quator iugerum possidens, manibus suis collebat. Iscum in opere et arans esset inventus, sudore de terso togam praetextam accepit, et caesis hostibus liberavit exercitum. While Gaius Fabius and Lucius Virginius were consul, 300 noblemen, who were from the Fabian family, alone undertook a war against the Veentes, promising to the Senate and the people the war would be done by themselves. And thus, having left all the nobles and all those who should have been generals of great armies, died in battle. Altogether, one from such a large family survived, who on account of his boyish age had not been able to be led into battle. After this, a census was had in the city, and 117,319 heads of citizens were found. In the following year, the Roman army was besieged on Mount Algidus, nearly 12 miles from the city. Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus, who, possessing only 4 acres of land, was working his farm by his own hands, was made dictator. When he was found in his work and tilling, after wiping his sweat, he accepted the toga praetexta, and after the enemies were defeated, he liberated the army. Until next time, where the consulship is abolished. Wait, we're not at the Empire yet. Well, valete, viatores.